Hey guys, it's Tori, and today I'm going to be discussing 5 books that Jennifer Brooks made me read that ended up being favorites of all time for me. I mentioned in a previous video that when I was editing my favorite books of 2023, which I recorded before I found out she passed away and then I was editing after, and I realized there were so many books on that list that were inspired by Jennifer. And so it made me think about other books that have been inspired by Jennifer, who she was the main reason I picked it up. And there actually have been so many, and I just have 5 here that I'm going to talk about that actually I consider favorites of all time. They're not just general, I really liked them. And it's honestly really impressive that all of these can be easily traced back to Jennifer was the one that recommended it, and she's the reason why I picked it up. And maybe there were other people that talked about it too, but really it was Jennifer's discussion of it that made me pick it up, and it just has ended up being some of my favorite books of all time. So let's just jump right into this. Starting with one of my now favorite nonfiction books of all time. I really need to make a actual video talking about my favorite nonfiction books of all time. I haven't done that yet, but this one would definitely be on there, and that is Romantic Outlaws, The Extraordinary Lives of Mary Wollstonecraft and Mary Shelley by Charlotte Gordon. This is an incredible biography of these 2 women, of mother and daughter, who never actually were able to really meet each other because Mary Wollstonecraft died not long after Mary Shelley was born, but she really influenced her daughter's beliefs through her writings and really inspired her daughter in a lot of ways. And I just really loved the way this was written. I listened to the audiobook of it, and it was just so easy to listen to and fall into, and there's a lot in this book that I think about pretty regularly about just their experiences within the world, the setting that they were living in with the French Revolution and the American Revolution and all of the things that influenced them in that area, and also a lot of the new philosophies that were starting to be discussed more and more at the time. Jennifer particularly loved Mary Shelley and loved learning about her. I have to say, I think my preferred part of this book was actually Mary Wollstonecraft, but I did still find Mary Shelley fascinating. Like, I was never disappointed when we went back to Mary Shelley. I think I just really connected with Mary Wollstonecraft in a little bit deeper way. That being said, we both ended up loving this book. I'm so glad she made me read it, and like I said, it's one of my favorite nonfiction books of all time at this point, and it was because she inspired me and so many others of us to read this, and it was definitely worth my time. Next, I have a book that I actually really was not interested in reading at all. Like, it wasn't even just a book I hadn't heard of, and then she talked about it, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll give it a try, but it was one I really was not planning to read, and then the way Jennifer talked about it, I was like, okay, maybe it will fall more in line with my interests. The book is The Invisible Life of Addie Larue by V.E. Schwab. I had read a few things by Victoria V.E. Schwab in the past, and just hadn't really gripped me as well as I would have liked, and as well as it had for other people. Specifically, the Darker Shade of Magic trilogy, I really enjoyed the first book, and then the second 2, it lost me. I just didn't like the direction it went in. I didn't like how it explored certain characters. So because of those experiences, I was just like, I'm just not really interested in Victoria Schwab or V.E. Schwab. I just don't think she writes things that really work for me and my tastes very well. So I was just kind of like, whatever. I knew some people had said this was different, but I was like, I'm just not interested. But then Jennifer talked about it, and she talked about the exploration in this of being remembered and art and things like that, and it just made me a lot more curious about the themes that were going to be explored in here. It's about a woman who basically is cursed, where she's able to live forever, but no one will ever remember her. As soon as she or they leave a room, like she's out of their heads, and she just can't make connections anymore because of that. And so she's living this very lonely eternal life, and she's just trying to find ways to make her mark on the world, and I really loved the exploration of that. It's definitely more of a character-driven story, so it's not as plot-driven as a lot of Victoria Schwab's other works, but it is beautifully written and very interesting. It's obviously not going to be for everyone, no book is, but I really did love this, and I'm so glad Jennifer made me pick it up, because I definitely wouldn't have if she hadn't spoken about it the way she did. Next, I have a book that was just the book I was waiting for, was the book I needed that was in this kind of subgenre, and it's because of Jennifer that I even knew it existed, and that is Half Sick of Shadows by Laura Sebastian. This is a retelling of the King Arthur story told from the perspective of the Lady of Shalott, Elaine. It's very character driven. There's not a whole lot of plot in this, and in fact it doesn't even actually go through all of the details of the King Arthur story. I mean, it does, but not in a way that's like a linear plot line, and so I could see a lot of people finding this boring or not interesting, but the way these characters and their relationships are explored in this, and the way Elaine is drawn as a character, it was exactly the kind of King Arthur retelling I've been looking for. I absolutely loved it. Jennifer felt very similarly to me, just that feeling of, yes, this is the King Arthur retelling I needed, and we found it in this book, and it just is wonderful. I really, really loved it. I think it is beneficial to go into it having some understanding of the story of King Arthur, at least some of the basic primary plot points that are within that story, so that you know kind of who these characters are and what they're meant to do, because like I said, it doesn't really explore it in a very linear, clear fashion. It kind of just subtly points fingers at it. You don't need to know like everything. It's just, I would definitely know at least a few things about his story so you can better understand what's going on in this. But I did love, love, love it. In the past, I've actually had The Invisible Life of Addie Larue on my favorite shelf, but I think I might switch it out for this one. I think I like this one a little bit more. That being said, obviously both I just really love, and I'm just grateful to Jennifer for helping me to find this book. Next we have The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichec. This is a Norse myth retelling, which there's not a lot of, at least not this type that's kind of similar to like Madeline Miller, Natalie Haynes, those kinds of people who write a lot of Greek myth retellings. This one's in that same vein, but with Norse mythology. Specifically, we follow Angrboda, who is one of the wives of Loki. In fact, she gives birth to several figures who play an important role in the end of days in Ragnarok for Norse mythology. And it was just wonderful, absolutely amazing. It's probably one of my favorite mythology retellings ever, and I may have read it, but Jennifer and her love of Norse mythology really is what prompted me to be interested in this in the first place. Plus, she read this and also loved it, so that was also a glowing recommendation that I trusted. But this has quickly become one of my very favorite books of all time. I've ordered these in like order of most favorites, at least the fiction ones. So this is the fourth on this list of 5. So it's one of my top favorite books of all time. I absolutely love it, and it's because of Jennifer that I was able to read it. And this final book, I don't have a pretty cover for. I just have this really kind of gross hardcover for it, but it was like the best edition and deal I could get for it, and I knew I wanted to read it as soon as I heard about it. I had heard about it actually from Jackie Reads and Writes first, so a little honorable mention for her because she did inspire me to read this, but Jennifer also really heavily inspired me to read this, just between the two of them. I think Jackie introduced it to me in one of her videos and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting, and then Jennifer just dove deeper into it in a way that spoke to me and just made me want to read it even more, and it's now one of my favorite books, if not it's my favorite non-classic of all time, and that is The Sunne and Splendour by Sharon K. Penman. This is a story of Richard III, and it is the quintessential Richard III book. And it's incredible, so well done. Sharon K. Penman really brings to life this world of the Wars of the Roses and brings Richard III to life in a way that I really find very interesting. Yes, she kind of paints him as a really good person, almost a saint, but I feel like she does create a pretty well-rounded view of him. Like, there are moments where he clearly has flaws, he's clearly kind of power hungry, especially by the end, but he's also not completely controlled by it, like a lot of the stories and nonfiction written about him that kind of paints him in a much more negative light. Like, it's just a lot more of a kinder view on him, but also still giving him that well-roundedness, like I said. And beyond that, just like I said, the world of the Wars of the Roses and other characters that are being explored in here, not just Richard III, because it does switch perspectives. It's all third person, but it switches between like primary perspective throughout the story, from Edward and Elizabeth of York and all of these other characters. Maybe it doesn't go into Elizabeth of York's head, maybe just Elizabeth Woodville, her mother, but either way, we're exploring from a variety of different perspectives throughout this book, and it's just amazing, and it made me cry multiple times, and it's well written, it's huge, so you get to just really dive into this world, like I said, and it's just amazing, and it's really because of Jennifer that I even was able to really get excited about wanting to read this and get to it so soon, especially because it's so long. She encouraged me to do it, and it's now, like I said, probably my favorite book of all time that's not a classic. I just absolutely love it. Okay, minus maybe Harry Potter, because we all know I love Harry Potter, but this probably is right up there alongside that series. So yes, I love this, and I'm so grateful to Jennifer for inspiring me on that one. And that is the last of the 5 that I wanted to talk about today. I love Jennifer. I'm so grateful that I was able to watch so many of her videos and get her recommendations, because so many of them have turned out well for me. Thankfully, she had so many other books on her channel that she's talked about that I already own and that I have on my TBR that I don't own. So I'm sure I'll be able to continue to enjoy her recommendations for a while to come at least, and I'm grateful I get to read even more this month. So that is all from me. Thank you for watching. Let me know down below any books that Jennifer Brooks recommended to you that you end up loving, as I would love to know. Also, if you just have opinions about these books, I would love to know that as well. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!